All right, the Reds, it's Pete Bolster, it's Christos Nicolau with me, and it's the Spion Kop. We're back the day after that horrible, dismal, abysmal, anemic performance again. Outfought, outran, outmaneuvered, outclassed at times. Yeah, it could be any game this season because it's Groundhog Day, but it is the day after Liverpool drew against Chelsea 1-1. The Premier League champions versus the world champions, might I add, which says even more of how much of a terrible display it was. It ended in boos, Christos, which rightly or wrongly shows you where this club's at right now and where the fans are and how frustrated we all are.
Yeah, you said it was the champions versus the world champions. It looked like a relegation battle, to be honest with you. The quality of football that we were seeing yesterday was just terrible. In terms of the actual game, I think the reason the fans are booing is because of the whole performance, but the way Liverpool are going about it. There was a moment in the 90th minute or the 91st minute, Managerial makes a save and we're on for a counter-attack. But the players have got the ball and they're walking. They don't want to counter-attack. They don't want to go and score the winning goal. 2-3 years ago, they would be flying. Salah would be on his bike and Alisson would be trying to get him. And now we're just walking throughout the game. We're not trying to win. We don't want to impose ourselves. We're just more interested in not losing the game. And that's evidence in most of the season. We don't care about winning. We're just about don't lose.
I want to address that because you just said that 2 or 3 years ago, we would always be trying to win a football game.
Especially at Anfield.
Yeah, especially at Anfield. But people always allude to the fact that we've been spoilt under Jurgen Klopp. I see all the mainstream media reference that point. I hear Liverpool fans, I see them online, and they reference that point that we're so spoiled by Jurgen Klopp football that, of course, there's going to be a drop-off. There's going to be a drop-off in personality. There's going to be a drop-off in quality. It's not always going to be great times at Anfield watching Liverpool play. But I just think that's a load of nonsense. I've been watching football for 30-odd years, and I've always watched Liverpool try and win a game. I've seen Liverpool come back in the 90s against Man United, 3-0 down. They come back, it was 3-3. They were trying to win the football game that night. They try and win football games no matter who the opposition is. Rightly or wrongly, even sometimes when we're playing against superior teams. We've played Man United sides when they've went and won leagues, and we've had big scalps at Anfield. We've beaten big sides because we are a big side. We're Liverpool, and I just don't buy into the fact that this is only happened under Jurgen Klopp. This is the identity of this football club. You go and try and win the football match. And at Anfield, with a tight pitch, you use that to your advantage. A tight pitch, the crowd right on top of you, you use the fans to your advantage, and you throw tackles in, you outrun your opponents, you make sure that you harness the crowd, and this team cannot do that. There's such a disconnect with the fans that it's quite remarkable.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that were talking about the booing of the substitution as well. And after the match, Arne Slot comes out and gives us the reasoning behind it, talks about some sort of injury or niggle that Engamo was feeling. So I can accept that, but at the same time, they still booed him. And that's a massive indication of what the fans are feeling. They're directly talking to the manager and they're telling them what they think about his decisions. I don't think I've ever seen that happen for a substitution. That was quite special for me. I think that's the only way the fans can talk to the manager and tell him what they think, but not only to the manager, but to the owners.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I also think you're right about what it signifies. And I think what it signifies is more damning. So there are people who say, you've got every right to boo. Some people think that you haven't. I think that it's up to each individual to decide what they want to do when they walk inside Anfield. It's not for me to judge. I also think that there was mitigating circumstances, and he did come out and explain. He said that the Rio Ingamo had cramp. It wasn't an injury, and he wouldn't have taken him off, which I find difficult to imagine that he wouldn't have taken Rio off because he's done that in almost every game he's played for Liverpool. He started against Fulham about a month ago, and he's barely played ever since. He doesn't seem to want to play the kid for whatever reason, and I think all of that was coming into the crowd's thoughts and feelings, but it was quite unanimous of how resounding the boos were. And then it happened at the full-time whistle as well. So I think that is definitely what you're saying. It's right on the manager. It's exactly that the frustrations of what's going on. But it also signals to me that we're not going to win this football match. As soon as you took Rio off, it was the only bit of penetration that you had. Listen, I know they've got loads of injuries. They're missing Mohamed Salah, they're missing Hugo Ekitike, Isak wasn't in the starting lineup. We know all that. But in that front three, there was no goals. There was no real goals where you're going, this is how Liverpool are going to score a goal. And taking Rio off at that point was like, we're resigned to the fact. But we're jumping a lot ahead here, Christos. I want to say, think about that. When Liverpool scored the goal in the opening 5 minutes, Ryan Gravenberch, it's a good goal. I think the keeper should save it. It's quite centrally, but it's still a good goal from our perspective. And I thought, if Liverpool are going to score a goal today, the midfield have to stand up and be counted, because I've just spoke about that lack of goal threat in the front three. But he and the rest of the midfield then dropped off. And that, to me, was a big problem. And Arne Slot come out in the press conference afterwards and said he did not instruct his team to drop off. But nevertheless, there was a massive drop off. Liverpool were passive, they were outfought, and they were outrun. You spoke off air just before, Christos, telling me about Chelsea outrunning Liverpool, which they'd been outran by 35 of their opponents that they faced this season in the Premier League. The 36 game they come to Anfield and they outrun us.
Yeah, it's damning, and I think the fact that we are dropping back after scoring a goal, almost sort of asking them to attack us, I think that comes just down from muscle memory. I think they're so used to being defensive and sort of retreating and not being in the attacking front. And even at the goal, one of the things I really enjoyed about the goal is Engamo's got the ball and he's dragging 4 players towards him to a point where Gravenberch has got all the space in the world. And I think we've missed that a lot this season. Players being able to keep the ball on the wing, maybe because they don't know what he's going to do. So they're panicking. They're all looking at Engamoa. And while they're doing that, they're forgetting that Gravenberch is outside the box with no one in front of him. So he's give that opportunity to Gravenberch to score the goal.
He's created the space for him, hasn't he?
He's created the space, and that's what we need. We need people creating chaos. We need defenders to be thinking once or twice of what they're going to do. Sometimes I feel with maybe Vert or, I don't know, Gakpo, it's too predictable, and players just know if they stand in the right position and they track their men, then inevitably they're going to defend whatever Liverpool's trying to do.
One of the issues I had with Arne Slot's explanation about the substitution of Rio Engamoa wasn't so much the fact that it was a forced change. It was the fact that he alluded to the fact that Chelsea then had a lot of possession in that first half. So much so there was a moment in that first half when Liverpool got the ball, the Chelsea fans started olaying every time Liverpool passed the ball. In our own backyard, Premier League champions, we've taken the lead against a team that have lost 6 games in a row, coming to Anfield, very similar to Spurs. Spurs done the same thing, come to Anfield, got a result, is really not good in any way. But Arne Slot said that the possession came because they packed the midfield. Chelsea were without wingers themselves because of an injury crisis, so they had more midfielders playing. I just thought at that moment then, it wasn't so much that Rio was taken off. You have to ask the question, should he have played in the beginning? Which might sound mad to anyone else, but I did say to you the other week that maybe we should pack the midfield. Maybe we should get a grip of that midfield, because that midfield is very exposed all the time. And whatever the plan was at the beginning of the season, it didn't work. Now we're towards the end of the season and we have midfielders. Curtis Jones, we'll come on to him in a moment. I thought he was abysmal at right back. But there was moments that he did float into midfield and look like a midfield, and he looked very much like himself, scoring the disallowed goal and a few nice passes there and here and there. I'm just going to reiterate, you've got Alexis McAllister and you've got Ryan Gravenberch as the 2 number 6s, and you've got Dominic Szoboszlai as the number 10, and then you have a packed Chelsea midfield. Arne Slot knew that and still chose to go with it, despite Alexis McAllister and Ryan Gravenberch struggling for months on end.
Yeah, and at the same time, he knows he hasn't got the attacking power to perceive with what he's trying to do with his idea of football. If you haven't got the attacking players, which he keeps reminding us, then surely you've got to adapt your plan and play to your strengths, whatever strengths we've got left. And I think that can only be the numbers in midfield, and you've got to utilise them in the right positions. In terms of energy, it wasn't there. in terms of positioning. They were cutting through us easily, 4 or 5 passes and they were in. And I don't even think Chelsea were trying to win that game at the same time, but I think we gave them confidence, and at one point they just felt, we can actually win this game. A team that hasn't won a game, was it the 6th in a row where they had 5 losses in a row?
No, it was 6. I think it was 6.
Was it 6? So that would have been the 7th
if
we won that game. So you're playing one of the worst teams in the league, arguably on form right now. You've already mentioned how we've done that with Tottenham. We're basically given crap teams the advantage, and we're telling them you can win this game at Anfield, which is unacceptable.
It certainly is unacceptable. I think what's got to be addressed here is that Liverpool drew the game. We didn't lose, but we drew the game.
It felt like a loss.
And it felt like a loss, but it's the performance. I think the performance is so uncharacteristic of what a Liverpool side is from the whole time I've been watching football. Not since Jurgen Klopp. That has to be put in the bin. It's the first time Anfield, I would say, is becoming more and more toxic since the Roy Hodgson, I was going to say era then, it certainly wasn't an era, it was 4 or 5 months. But to that situation, this now is, I just struggle with what the plan was yesterday. We just said about the attacking 3 being anemic. They didn't look like there was a goal in them. Rio Ngamo plays a good game. Cody Gakpo has 12 touches in the whole 90 minutes. 12 touches. I think Mamardashvili had almost double the touches than him, which is incredible. It's insane, which makes you think, like, well, what was he doing? What was he doing on that pitch? Now, again, he's had a lot of stick, Gakpo, this season, but he hasn't been helped, and he hasn't been helped by putting him centre forward, and then I know people come back and they'll say an injury crisis and so on, but there just seems to be a lot of square pegs and round holes at the moment. Even more so when you look at Curtis Jones. There was 14 opportunities at one point in the game that Cucurella got behind Curtis Jones. 14. All the time, he had Jeremy Frimpong, who is a right back, playing right forward.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to what you're saying about Curtis Jones. I think him and Kanate just had the worst game as a pair together. They were all over the place, arguing on the pitch in front of the fans, disagreeing about decision, who needs to go, who needs to cover, who needs to tuck in, who needs to sort of follow their man. It was all over the place, and I think Chelsea managed to play to their advantage. And how many times did you say? 14 times Cucurella got through. He's a left back. How is he doing that? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's a good job he's a left back. it would have been more damaging.
It's embarrassing. That's what it is. And I think Cucurella will leave that game thinking that he's one of the best players in the world, because he's penetrated Liverpool. He'll probably go to Spain now and say, I can do a little job for you on the left wing. But I think one of the biggest things I notice in this game is character and attitude of the players, and how they're not showing their character. I'm going to point out a couple of players that I thought had a decent game. I'm going to talk about Van Dijk. I thought he tried throughout the game, nearly scored twice. He was the one trying to rile the players up, and maybe not the best game, but McAllister, I thought, imposed himself a little bit more, got stuck in a little bit more, a few more tackles.
It is important to note with McAllister, though, because I thought that as well. I thought he puts himself about. There's one thing that no one can argue with Alexis McAllister, that he doesn't try.
Yeah.
And he does, and you can see how upset he is when it doesn't come off, but he only won 1 out of his 9 duels.
Yeah.
So that isn't a good performance, but I did say to you before, the tactical setup by Chelsea was to flood the midfield, and our tactical setup was to play 2 midfield and Dominic Szoboszlai as advanced. Now, Florian Wirtz was unavailable, so it was his opportunity at that point to say, you know, Dom, you go there with them 2 and make it at least a 3 and be a bit more combative and help Alexis McAllister. What McAllister's doing is, in the course of the season, is he's trying to defend the wide areas, and so is Gravenberg, and then you're opening up that space, because last season you had a Luis Diaz coming back, and you had Dominic Szoboszlai come back on the right hand side, and that was helping the midfield. It's the same midfield, and it's pretty much, and it's going massively wrong, because you haven't got the forward line pressing or retreating and coming back and defending. So he's just massively exposed. So I just wanted to put the context in there, Christos, because some people will say, no, he didn't. He didn't play well, but I think tactically, how he's been mismanaged is one of the biggest problems.
Yeah, and I think he's the epitome of, he doesn't look like he's got the ability anymore, but he's being exposed by what the manager's asking him. Similar to Mohamed Salah in the way we all think he's dropped off a cliff, but at the same time, the manager's asking him to do different jobs, and he's not being supported either by the right back, by the striker, by the midfielders. He's on his own, and we're asking him to do stuff that he's never done before. After the game, Gravenberch came out and spoke about the booing. The reporter asked him what he thought about it, and he talked about it not being fair, and he didn't understand why that should have happened, and he thought the fans should be behind them for 90 minutes. Now, we have been behind them for 90 minutes throughout most of the season, but it gets to a point where you are sick of it, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we're booing just the players. We're booing the commitment, we're booing the tactical decisions, and we're booing the overall sort of approach towards the game. The fact that 91st minute, we're not trying to counter-attack to score a goal at Anfield for our home fans. You can potentially lock Champions League qualification, and then everyone's having a laugh about it and maybe feeling a bit better about it. But you're not trying to do that. You're retreating, and you're making poor teams look half decent.
I told you it was Groundhog Day, didn't I? This is actually Groundhog Day. So it's difficult thinking of content ideas when you're watching this boring Liverpool side week in, week out. And I'm just like that thinking, what are we going to do tomorrow, or what are we going to do the next day? And that's where you come into it. So what we want to do is we want this podcast to make sure that we are reflecting who is watching it. And if you've got any ideas, and especially over the summer, because we're going to continue over the summer, if you've got any ideas, put it in the comments. Any questions you want us to address, put it in the comments. Any show ideas, put it in the comments. One of the ideas, or one of the questions was from Paul Brooks, who's tweeted me yesterday, and he wanted us specifically to answer why Dominic Szoboszlai was pressing and he was just running past the rest of the Liverpool players. And what he's alluding to is there that no one else is doing anything, and that comes down to what you're saying about desire. And I'll answer your question about Ryan Gravenberch. Yeah, I feel sorry for him, because when that final whistle goes, he's looking up in the air, and you know, he's just signed a new contract at Liverpool. He's had a great year last year. He's won the Premier League. He is a really good footballer. He's got a fantastic future ahead of him in the game and at Liverpool Football Club. And he's probably thinking, what's this about? But unfortunately, it's reflective and damning of the whole team. The team is a collective. So as a collective, they're just not doing it, are they?
No, and that's not the types of answers I want Gravenberch to be coming out and saying, almost questioning the desire of the fans and their love for Liverpool Football Club. He should understand the club more, and I think someone like maybe a Robertson would have come out and spoke a bit more correctly about how he would read that, because I don't think you should be having a go at the fans, but rather accepting it and almost apologising for the performance of your team. You might have had a good performance, but as a collective, as a team, as the manager, as a club, you haven't gone about it in the right way. And at the end of the day, people are paying loads and loads of money to come and watch that, and they're leaving disappointed, flabbergasted and bored. People are yawning throughout the match. People can't wait for half-time to go get a pint, where in years gone by, you didn't want the half-time to end because it was end-to-end stuff. It was exhilarating. And right now, it's just not that anymore. And it's not something that people get up to go and watch.
Why is Dominic Szoboszlai doing all that running and the rest of the Liverpool side? You said it right at the beginning of the show. Mohamed Ashraf gets the ball. There was 2 occasions in stoppage time. He gets the ball, he goes to throw it out, and he doesn't know what to do because there's no one busting the goal. Why is that happening?
I honestly think that players have had enough. I think
had enough of
Slot, had enough of the style of play, and they don't know how to get out. And especially in the position we were, we don't have an outlet to get out at that point. So Rion Gamoa's out the game. Kayser arguably is not that man. We all know he's not that man. So really, they're probably thinking, we can't lose this game, which I understand, but that's the mentality that's been brought into them this season. They've been bred to be a loser team, to be a defeatist almost, and all they're thinking is about don't concede. So they're getting the ball and they're almost trying to waste time. And the same for Chelsea, they were trying to win the game, but I'm not talking about Chelsea. Chelsea are 9th. We're supposed to be Champions League contenders, former champions. So I think we haven't got the outlet. They're too used to not winning games. And there's been too many occasions this season where we haven't been able to pull results out the bag. When we're losing, we're not able to come back. And for a Liverpool team, that's not what I want to see. Okay, we've had a lot of games where we've scored in the last minute, but I always think that comes down to individual brilliance. There's very few times where we're able to counter-attack a team. That's not sort of our identity anymore. That's not what a Liverpool goal looks like. Even last night, when you think about how do Liverpool score, it was probably Szoboszlai getting the ball outside the box and just smashing it, hoping for the best. There wasn't a move where you thought, yeah, that's how we get in behind them. With Chelsea, you could see what they were trying to do. They were trying to get Cucurella in behind, and then there was runners coming into the box. The defending was woeful, and then they're just trying to get the ball in the box so someone can tap it in. And that happened at one point, didn't it? But thankfully, it was disallowed.
All spot on, Christos, all spot on. I think the individual brilliance happened as well, right at the beginning of the game, and then after that, it didn't look like there was ever going to be a Liverpool goal. So all absolutely spot on. A few individual performances, I thought, and Brighton, personally, I thought Managerial was pretty solid. He looked all right, and his distribution, there wasn't a lot of it because he didn't have very many options, but he did throw the ball out a few times. What I did notice was that off the save from Cucurella, it was a good save, but it was his reaction I was looking at. He looked very, very pleased and very rallied up for a goalkeeper that looks like he's going to be the number one next season. I don't think you get that happy and that excited unless you are going to be the number one.
Yeah, I think he has got a point to prove, and I think he is trying to prove that to the Liverpool fans. I think at the end of the day, players look at social media and they will listen to people like us. Maybe not us, but specific sort of maybe Sky Sports or different sort of outlets.
Not us, because we haven't got enough subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe now.
Yeah, and they do know what the fans think about them, and it's only human. That's going to be stuck in your head. So naturally, you're trying to prove people wrong. You're trying to show them your capabilities. And in terms of his character, I can't really fault him. He does want to succeed at Liverpool, but whether he's got the ability to do that and whether he's the right man for us is something that we need to sort of see in the next couple of seasons, because it does look like he will be the number one option.
I think he certainly will be. Another one was, I'm not positive now because I haven't got any more positive. That's it. You've said about Virgil van Dijk, I've said about Managerial. Jeremy Frimpong is getting a lot of criticism by all Liverpool fans, whether it's on social media or within the ground. I'm struggling to see anything good going on there, and what the idea was. I remember having a conversation a few months ago with Chris, who's on the show, and he said he wants to see him further advanced. I see no quality with him further advanced. I think if he's going to play for Liverpool, he has to play at right back. One of the biggest damning things is over the last 8-9 years, whatever it is, you've had Trent Alexander-Arnold right back and you've had Andy Robertson left back, and they were in a competition with each other to get more assists than one another. Up until to this point, we've got Jeremy Frimpong on 1 and Kerkez on 1, and I think that says everything about what our season is and what our problems are from building up from the back, but also the fact that what is the manager thinking playing Curtis Jones there? I alluded to it before. And playing a right back further forward. Does he not trust him to play at right back? Because if he doesn't trust him, then I don't know what he signed him for. Has he signed him to play further forward and to be back up for Mo Salah and stuff like that? Yeah, probably. And he can do a job there, but he isn't doing a job there. This is a new whole ball game. This is the Premier League. There is no quality, absolutely nothing from him that I'm seeing. And I like the lad as well. So you want him to succeed, and I still hope he can as a squad player, but that's not a first team Liverpool player.
No, and I think people say that they want to see him in the defensive positions. I don't think he's good enough to be playing in defensive positions. I think that was evident.
Is he better than Curtis Jones though?
In a defensive...
Because
it's really hard to compare the two, because...
So if he's not though, just to cut in, if he's not better than Curtis Jones, who was literally wandering out and letting the left back run behind him 14 times. If he's not good enough, if he's not better than Curtis Jones at that point, he shouldn't get the club. Not even as a backup.
I think defensively, he's probably slightly better than Curtis Jones, only because of his pace and his recovery. But in terms of what I want to see from a defender, there was a moment in their disallowed goal, and Frimpong is next to, I think it's Cucurella, and Cucurella is making a run in behind him, and he stood there square, and the ball goes behind him. By the time he's rotated all the way round, the ball is in the middle of the box, and they've scored. So he's all over the place. His positioning is all over the place. I don't know whether that comes down from the management, the way they want to defend. But for me, that's basics of defending. You're not caught square when the ball's coming in behind you. You need to be in a ready position to rotate as fast as you can. And he's got the pace to do that. So he shouldn't be caught square at any point in the game. That just shows me a bit of game intelligence, or a lack of game intelligence at that point. Maybe a bit of immaturity. But I think maybe that's the types of little mistakes that he makes that maybe the manager's looking at and thinking, I don't really want to see him at right back position.
I was also watching Kirkes closely yesterday, and that's a bit of a mixed one. It's debatable if he's a good sign or he's not a good sign, and if you consult the fan base. If you ask me, I've got massive question marks over him. I think Frimpong and the whole right back situation gets Kirkes out of a lot of trouble. Because I look at him, and even when he does something well, like, he has this habit of taking someone on, and as soon as he's taking someone on, he goes, oh my God, I better pass it. And he's trying to get rid of it straight away because he cannot believe that he's got past them. And it's, to me, I just don't see any quality going forward. And he looks like, to be fair to him, I think he's less of an accident of what he looks like, but he also always looks like there's an accident going to happen, if that makes sense. He's not an Alberto Moreno, he's not a John Arne Slot, but he looks very much like that. And I'm just waiting for something bad to happen all the time.
Yeah, I think what you said there, he makes the others look not as he makes himself look better because of the performance of the others. I think that's the way I see it as well. And for me, he doesn't look like a starter. He doesn't look like someone that I'm banking my money on to be elite for Liverpool, to go and win a Champions League for Liverpool, to go and win a league for Liverpool. However, I can see a lot of good attributes about him, and a lot of things that we can work on and sort of mould him into a second sort of choice, someone that can play 20, 25 games a season. But we haven't brought him in for that, have we? We've brought him in to be a starter for Liverpool, and I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's got the tactical understanding. I don't think his touch, a lot of the times, he goes past the players, as you said, but sometimes his touch is really, really poor. For a professional footballer, he goes past the man and then he takes a touch and he's almost giving it to the opposition. And then by the time he's tracked back, they're in behind us again.
I know this is a really odd one, but his right foot's really weird as well. The way he hits the ball with his left foot, because he's left-footed, but when he hits the ball with his right foot, I'm struggling. I don't even know what I'm watching. I want anyone else to come back to me and explain what he does with his right foot, because he makes himself look like he's not a professional footballer. You said something before which we sort of said in a previous show last week about standards, and you were saying about Ryan Gravenberch and his reaction at the final whistle and the boos, and you said that maybe someone should have got a grip of him. I remember when Fernando Torres signed for the club, and he came from Spain, and the refereeing was different over there, the culture's different, and he dived a little bit. And I don't know how true this is, but I remember it being at the time that players like Steven Gerrard and Jamie Carragher got a grip of him and said, we don't do that here, you just don't do that. He played a game in the League Cup away to Reading, and he was fantastic, and he got booted all over the place. And I knew at that moment he was going to be an absolute superstar for Liverpool, because they booted him and they booted him and they booted him, and he's just banged in. I think he's got a hat-trick that night, if my memory serves me correctly. And he was fantastic, and I thought, wow, look at a player we've got here. Do you think that there's a lack of leaders in this current team and in the management, that people are running their mouth, acting in certain ways? Even if you go back to now, which now, if, you know, in isolation it didn't seem that bad, but if you go back in time when Ekitike raised the shirt and he got sent off, then you see Dominic Szoboszlai back heel and conceded the goal in the FA Cup. They probably, I mean, I wasn't all over it. I just thought, oh yeah, well, you know, it's one of those things, and you move on and you learn. But these mistakes keep happening and happening now, and people are saying things in the media and the way they're conducting themselves. I personally think, just to answer conclusively what Paul Brooks asked by the tweet last night about the players, I don't think they're a collective. I don't think they're a unit. I think they are a fractured team who are all individuals. Dominic Szoboszlai looks like a guy who runs about and says, I've done my job. Goes home, tells his mum that he got man of the match. And he's like, "Sad, I got man of the match again. I even hit the post." Do you know what I mean? What score was it, son? Yeah, we got beat. You know what I mean? But I think he's fine with that because of the ego that these players, the egos are all fighting each other now in that team, and they just don't look like a collective. Do you think that is a real problem in this squad and this makeup of the coaching team?
Yeah, I think we've had a problem with leadership since probably Henderson, Milner left the squads. I think there's a lot of instances where you can see a clear lack of communication. I'll go back to last night, Curtis Jones and Konate arguing. That's embarrassing. Arguing for something so silly when they can just communicate and sort it out in the game. Last week, Rio Gamoa, last few minutes, tries to have a shot against Man United. And it doesn't come out for him. And Szoboszlai and Gakpo, I think what it was, having a go at him and swinging their arms at him. He's 17 and he's trying his best. You've thrown him in a game and he's trying to make something happen for you. There's a lot of these instances, the midfield arguing with each other. I'd go back to Ekitike flinging his arms. The reactions after the games where Gravenberch is questioning the fans. Szoboszlai is coming over to the fans and asking them what the problem is. So they don't even know what we expect of them, and they don't even know about the culture. They don't understand what type of club they're playing and what type of people they're playing for. And I think they have to realise quickly before they're booted out the club.
I should have said this at the beginning of the show, but for me, the biggest problem all started before the weekend even began. On Friday, Arne Slot done his press conference and he said that we need one win to get over the line. And I was thinking, there's 3 games, you know. Like, what's this about? We're paying. Forget about the price rises. Any ticket is too expensive. If it costs £5 to get into Anfield, it's too expensive. If you're going the game and your team's not trying to win, it then transpired that Liverpool weren't trying to win that game this weekend. Oh, sorry, they might have been, but not at various points. They look like they only needed 1 win out of the next 3. I just don't know where you talk about they don't understand the culture. When I go to Anfield, or when I turn the telly on in Liverpool or in a pre-season friendly, in America or in Asia or whatever, I want to win the Asia Cup. I want to win. And just to make it absolutely clear, Liverpool won. I think it was the Carlsberg Challenge in the 90s in Ireland. Someone can remember that as well. I don't know who we played. I think we played like Shamrock Rovers or whatever. And I was buzzing. I was buzzing because I want to win. I want to win every game. That's not understanding the culture, is it?
No, and I think you can tell that's not the way they go about it. That's not the way they go about life. And it's sad, really, to see how the mighty have fallen, how the mentality has fallen. And I think that will only come down to management. That can only come down to management.
Do you think it's because they all just wanted to get off on holiday? Because they only went on holiday last week, you know.
I don't know whether that's because they wanted to go on holiday, because arguably they're trying to win that, wouldn't they? And then they can go on holiday.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but there's 3 games. So, like, if they won this one, it's like, well, get off now, innit?
Yeah, I mean, potentially, but if that's the case, I'd rather get the academy on. The academy on, they'll probably give us a better game. They'll probably give us more highlights, and you just can't behave like that. I think that the desire is number 1 for a Liverpool player. Then you can show me your skills, then you can show me your style of play, but number 1, you need to die to be on that pitch, and no one's dying to be on that pitch. I'll come back to what you said, if there's a problem of leadership. Yeah, there is a massive problem of leadership, and I'd say the only natural leader in that squad is probably Virgil van Dijk. And next season, with potentially Alisson leaving, potentially Robertson leaving, Salah leaving, it's going to be a massive gap of leadership in there. And at the end of the day, it's a squad full of kids now. I say kids, 23, 24, 25-ish. So that's going to be a really, really challenging sort of way to go about the season. Look at Chelsea now. They're in a similar position, and look at where they found themselves. They've got the superstars, but they've got a lot of young superstars, a lot of young players. There's no leadership there to grab them and sort of guide them through a game, to settle them down when they need to hype them up when they need to. And there's no one to follow as a leader in that team. And
to understand the culture. A bunch of kids. I think that's the problem. So the kids that are playing for a world super club, but also a very unique scouse club, and someone who doesn't understand the area, doesn't understand the city, understand the fan base. I think that's one of the biggest problems. But I told you, didn't I, that we were struggling for content, because this is probably the same show that we've done a million times already this season, so apologies for that. But if you have got ideas and you want to throw them out there, make sure you do, because we will do any show and we'll address it over the summer. And there's many other things that we can do, like who we're going to sign, and see, I've already run out of ideas, but who cares? You're going to sort that out, aren't you? So make sure you subscribe. It has been Pete Bolster, it has been Christos Nicolau, and it has been the Spion Kop.